All right, welcome in. We're going to do something a little different today. It's me and it's Amy, and
What
we're
up?
going to do. Oh. We're going to do something a little different. So I had several people send me this podcast, and I listened to a large portion of it and found myself wanting to clarify a lot of things as they were coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to come on here and do this where I'm going to do kind of a reaction video. So I'm going to tell you what the podcast is. I'm going to tell you some caveats on it. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with it. We're not going to get through the whole thing today because the podcast itself is an hour and a half long. And so we're not going to, like, my reaction would be 3 hours if we were going to do that. So we'll see how much we can get through today, or even if I have it in me to do the rest of it at any point. But so this is the Mel Robbins podcast. And the reason why I wanted to do it is I actually really like Mel Robbins for what it is that she does in the lane that she is in. I think that what ends up happening, though, for a lot of folks like Mel who get the audience size that they get, the podcast becomes its own thing where they are bringing people on that are quote unquote experts, and those people can kind of say whatever they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are people who I think I would be aligned with mentally, and I would probably get along well with Mel. Or another example is, like, these are some of the biggest podcasts in the world, Diary of a CEO, or even the Joe Rogan podcast. I wouldn't necessarily agree with those people, but like they will get so much differing opinions on their podcast because it is now an entertainment business where it is for people to come on and say what it is that they're going to say, and they're not necessarily being fact checked or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that person is the authority. On this episode, this person's the authority, and what they say is true. And we're not going to necessarily push back on that or fact check them, because otherwise other people aren't going to want to come on and spew their nonsense. And so you're allowed to have it be entertainment, but when such a large audience is hearing something coming from and getting the approval of the host, who they might agree with or like or follow, i.e. Mel in this case, and Mel is very much a cheerleader, and so she tries to make stuff super actionable, and as a result she oftentimes takes things to their extremist level. And so what ends up happening is there are things in this episode that there's some that are factually inaccurate, but the vast majority of them are needlessly complicated and make it harder than it needs to be for women. And so this episode is called The Body Reset: How Women Should Eat and Exercise for Health, Fat Loss, and Energy, with Dr. Stacy Sims. And I know of Stacy Sims. I don't have anything against her. This is nothing an indictment of anybody personally. I am here to try to clarify something that I think is needlessly complicated. And so what we're going to do is, and this is going to maybe be a little bit clunky because I've never done this technologically, but we figured out a way for me to kind of do picture in picture and do this. So I am going to press play on the episode. I have to mute myself, so there might be a couple times where Amy has to remind me to unmute myself.
I'll be gentle.
But I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to press play, and at certain points, I will pause the episode to give clarity. And so you're going to hear it unbroken. I'm not going to fast forward through anything. I'm not going to clip anything. I'm going to let you hear what is said, and then where I think it needs to, I'm going to clarify in here. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll see how much we get through. Honestly, it's entirely possible we never air this episode, but at least in my head, we're going to give this a whirl. So let's dive in.
Stacy Sims,
Nothing like right into an ad.
Right into an ad.
Right
timing
into
for
an
the ad.
Further
We'll just let it
evidence
play
that
and we'll vamp.
further evidence again that this is a money making endeavor for them.
Right.
And I don't make any money from this podcast. And so I can sit here and I can tell you the things that you may not want to hear, but need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So now we hypothetically should be.
That you're here in our Boston studios. I've been waiting a long time to be able to sit down, meet you, and learn from you. I'm just thrilled that you're here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited. We
Awesome.
have lots of fun.
And we have a lot to dig into. And so here's where I want to start. Could you speak directly to the person that's listening? And this is somebody who doesn't have a lot of time, but they made the time to be here to learn from you.
Okay.
What could that person expect might change about their life or feel different if they take everything to heart that you're about to teach us and share with us today, and they use it in their own life?
I find there's two big things that often happen. One, most women become more empowered and have better body positivity. And two, they have a sense of separation from the stress and their own selves. So they're able to take that step back from the stress of everything that's happening. It's kind of like that pause moment. Because when you are taking care of your body, then it feeds back into a lot of positive metrics. So the big thing that I love is watching women go through an evolution to go from being not so confident in themselves to having such empowerment to be able to stand up and say, I own this space and I'm taking it.
You know, one thing that strikes me about you already is that you actually exude that.
Oh, thanks.
Now, you have a level of presence and power in your body, and it's not just because you are in incredibly great shape in terms of muscle definition, but it's actually something that's noticeable. And so I think this goes beyond sort of that sense of separation of stress. Like what I experience in just sitting here with you is that you're actually embodied in the present and in your body. And a lot of times when we're stressed out, especially, you know, as caregivers and the amount of stuff that we do, we're up in our heads and disconnected from our body.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to really learn from you because I want to feel more like the centered confidence and calmness that you just seem to move through a space with.
I'm good with the facade now. Just kidding. Thanks. Yeah, it does come from a lot of pushback I've had in my life. So it's like being put into a pretty male dominant situation. You have to find your feet and how do you move through that space. And I've found it through exercise, strength, all the stuff that we're going to talk about.
Amazing. So you have such an incredible background. And I'm actually going to read it because it's quite a bit. You know, I've talked about this when I was introducing you, but you have a PhD in exercise physiology. You're a researcher. You're a former professional athlete. You now train professional athletes. You're an expert in exercise physiology. You have a long list of other specialties like cardiovascular disease prevention, thermoregulation, women's health. You are a pioneering researcher that participates in her own studies. And you have this incredible mantra, Dr. Sims. Women are not small men.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. I laugh when people say women are not small men because when we hear it, we're like, oh, yeah, that's right. But it started from when I was teaching at Stanford and wanted to wake some of the undergrads up after lunch and afternoon sleepies come in. And I was teaching about sex differences in training or high performance. So I would start it with women are not small men. And people are like, well, of course not. Like that's, women aren't small men. But what I mean by that is everything from what happens in utero until we die is different for women than men. So when we talk about women are not small men and we see all the guidelines that are out there for exercise, all the guidelines out there.
So I'm gonna quick pause.
Mm-hmm.
couple things to this point. One, I wanted you to hear that. It sounds a little strange that was what we spent some time doing, like the introduction and all of that. But again, I don't want to let this be I want this to be unbroken. But there's a couple things. We're about to dig into a lot of nutrition stuff from her perspective. And you'll notice that in her credentials, there are no things with regards to nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's exercise science.
Exercise science, which again, I have not heard in the parts of this that I have listened to and what we will dig into today. I have not heard much in the way of anything that is controversial in terms of training, but we are going to dig into some nutrition stuff here in a minute. And the thing that I want to highlight here is what she said, which is women are not small men. Things are different. We did a whole episode on why it is harder for women to lose weight. Like there are differences. Now, we are all humans. And so there are things that are true to humans that are global experiences. Now, and there are also things that are unique to women, just like there are things that are unique to men. And where we get, I think, needlessly complicated is where we think we take things that are human and we say that these are different men to women. And that's where it gets a little bit muddy. So we'll dig into that a little bit here. But there are a lot of things that are unique to women, and there are a lot of things that are unique to men. But there are also a lot of things that are true for both men and women that are global, real rules, the laws of nature. So we'll dig into that here.
For mental health, for the connections, the sociocultural pressures. We experience things differently as women than men do, but that's not ever really explained. So when we say women are not small men, it makes people take that pause and ask, well, what do you mean by that? What topic? So today, what I mean by women are not small men is we're going to dive into exercise, especially how what we do should change as we move through our lives.
What does that motto, women are not small men, mean in practice?
I think when we look right now at what's being portrayed in social media, fitness trends, the medical trends, all of that data is really drawn from men and just generalized to women, which is a huge disservice. So I want women, especially you as a listener on this podcast, to take a pause whenever you see a new trend come up or someone pushing something, to just go, well, where did this originate? How does that appropriate for me as a woman in my phase of life? And when you take that pause, you begin to have an objection to some of the things that are being pushed on you and an objective view of how you should approach things to make it beneficial for you.
I am so glad that we're starting here because I am constantly shocked at the things that I think I should be doing and the things that I hear a lot of male health experts talking about, or a lot of the bro science, or a lot of the kind of bro experts and the fitness trends that are very dude oriented. No offense to the guys. I'm just saying.
I don't love the way that this gets phrased.
The dude science?
Yes, bro science, because I will see, and I see it a little bit less, but I saw it on the post of mine that went bonkers where I talked about it. And anything that I have friends in the industry who have large followings who will come on. And I have a small enough following that I generally don't get a ton of people being like, you're a guy, you shouldn't speak about women's issues. Like when I did a post about once you're postpartum, you're always postpartum, or I talk about periods or whatever it is. I tend to not get the dregs of the internet. But one of my friends in the industry, who's one of the leaders in the industry, Jordan Syatt, did a post about menopause. And he had a gajillion women in his thing, like, you're a dude, you shouldn't speak about this. And it does the opposite of what I think it's intended to do. Which is, if I come out and I say it's bro science or it's dudes and they're just saying their stuff, I'm eliminating an entire group of people who might have valid understandings of what's going on just because I don't experience it. And so now I'm contributing to the world in which we're ignoring a group of people. And the idea that just because I don't have a uterus, I can't speak to women's health, as if I haven't done more research on it than 99.9% of people in the world and worked with hundreds of women, is like saying somebody can't operate on a brain tumor because they've never had cancer. I can't say that I've experienced it, but that doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about. And so they'll do this a few times through it, and I just want to identify what's happening. And I don't love that that's kind of the approach of it, because immediately it gets the idea of like any dude who comments on this is just doing bro science, which would be kind of what I'm doing right now.
Saying that it often has felt like, to me, as I've learned more and more, like, oh my God, wait a minute. We've just kind of treated women and our health almost like if you're golfing. There's the tee that's further back for the guys, and there's the tee that's a little bit like closer for the women. And we're just going to treat everybody the same, but shrink it a little bit.
Yep. Shrink and pink is what we called it in the industry.
Shrink and pink.
Shrink and pink. So we'll take running shoes or a bicycle. All they do is they make it a little bit smaller, maybe put some pink on it and say it's a woman's product.
It's so true.
I know. And it's like, wait, that's not really appropriate. You'll see in my book, there's some pink, and that's an odage to shrink and pink, because
this is 100% true.
Yes,
and it is a big problem. 100% true, and it is a big problem. So this is the thing that I get on, right? Like, don't discount the fact that you're saying something incredibly valid by pooping on a whole group of people over here, right? But I understand
that's what people think is honoring women, by making it a little bit smaller. Let's bling it up with some color, and we're going to call it a woman's product. And that is not appropriate.
Well, the other thing that I think has been like really fascinating, we're going to get into this, is just that a lot of the research has only been done on men, and there hasn't been research on how certain things have an impact on women and our hormones and our body structure and our composition, which is, as you've already said, fundamentally different than that of somebody who's male.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for you to take a step by step by step and help us kind of tee up all the assumptions that we've all just kind of come to assume that work for men, but don't work for women, and what we need to know and need to be doing to actually work with our bodies and take better care of ourselves.
Perfect.
So what's the most common mistake that women make by following male-centric fitness advice?
They don't get any results, and they end up what we call tired but wired. I mean, if you look at most women who make a point to get up, do some training, go exercise, and it happens so often after 4 weeks of following the same kind of training program as their male partner has gotten leaner, fitter, better cognition, focus, all of the things that you want out of fitness. And the woman's like, how come I'm fatter and tired and I don't have any like increase in my fitness like my partner does? And I see it all the time. And I'm always explaining, well, one, your partner might get up and go fasted training. Women's bodies don't respond well to fasted training.
What's fasted training? I don't even know what the heck this is. Like, what was fasted training?
Fasted training means you're not having any food before you go do exercise.
Oh, so well, that's what I would always do.
Yeah.
Like I would always literally like, I'm going to eat after, because my husband would eat after. And then we would, my mouth is on the floor. You can see this on YouTube, but like, as you're listening, I'm processing this because I'm thinking how often I've been pissed off at Chris, my husband.
Yeah.
Because we will take on some challenge together. And I'm like, this is not fair.
Yeah.
Like, how is it that this is actually making you lose weight? And I feel like I'm puffier and fluffier and tired and pissed off.
Yep.
And I'm following the same steps. I'm doing the intermittent fasting. I'm not eating beforehand. I'm slamming the thing after. I'm doing that. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And this is because he's male and I'm female.
Yep, exactly. And it comes really.
Memorial Day savings are going on.
Well, Memorial Day savings are coming.
That's very
apparently.
exciting. I did not know that women don't respond well to fasted training.
It's wrong.
Is it? Okay, so I'm like,
That's-
why has I never
Why
eat
did
before I
Jeff
train.
why did Jeff not step in?
Just wrote that
So-
down.
So
Not you in particular, but why is this not discussed? Is what I wrote.
So we're gonna dig into this a little bit more, and it's not that nobody does,
Mhm.
right, or that everybody does. It's when we make a global assumption because you're a woman. Like this is exactly what we just talked about. You're making a global assumption now of all women don't respond to fasted training, and she gets into why they don't here in a second. But I wanted to kind of interrupt and say a couple of things. One, we're going to dig into where the logic of this fails, okay? Because all you have to do is, again, anecdotally talk to hundreds, if not thousands of women, as I have done, who don't train with food in their belly and have lost a lot of weight, i.e. my wife, who doesn't like to eat before she works out because it makes her nauseous.
That's why I don't.
Doesn't matter who it is, but it doesn't mean that you don't respond well. It also doesn't mean that you should do it. I'm saying you can make your own decision. But I will say the thing that is 100% true is that, and we've talked about this a lot, where dudes and women can do the same thing and the guy can see more progress than the woman in the same amount of time doing hypothetically the same thing. That is for the episode, go back, forget when it is, where we say why it's harder for women to lose weight than men. But basically it comes down to he's bigger than you.
Yep. He's burning more calories.
He's burning more calories. There's a guy who's 400 pounds. I'm not saying that this is it, right? But a guy who, extreme examples, a guy who's 400 pounds could be in a calorie deficit eating 3,000 calories a day. He could be in a 1,500 calorie a day deficit. He could lose 3 pounds a week eating 3,000 calories a day. If a woman who was maybe 150 pounds ate 3,000, or 200 pounds ate 3,000 calories a day, she would gain weight. The same would be true for a man, because the laws of thermodynamics do not care if you are a man or a woman. They do not care. It is the laws of the universe. It's like gravity. Gravity is gravity. The laws of thermodynamics means that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Now, how you respond to it, how your body feels when you do it, is an entirely different conversation on whether or not I'm losing weight or not. Those are two totally different conversations. So it's important for us to recognize this piece of it. When she says they don't respond well, we need to dig into this a little bit more. So I'll press play here.
To the brain, right? So when we start looking just at first thing you get up, and our responses are different, where women's brains will start going, okay, where's the food to come in to help bring my stress hormones down and get me started for the day?
Okay.
And men, by the nature of being XY, their brain's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to supply some amino acids and some blood sugar and let's get on with the day. Then we'll find some food. That's fine. But women's brain, specifically what we call the hypothalamus, that is really sensitive to blood sugar and food coming in. So if you get up and you start your exercise without any food, the hypothalamus is like, wait a second, this is a stress to the body that I need to really try to figure out. But if I don't have food to counter the fuel that the muscles are needing from a contraction, I need to find a way to supply that fuel. So it goes into a little bit of a tizzy. And one of the first things that starts to get broken down is your muscle mass, because muscle is a pretty active tissue. And the hypothalamus is like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to supply the food that this muscle needs if I don't have any food coming in. So it's a very small amount of food that a woman needs first thing.
Okay. We're gonna pause here for a second because, again, I think we're making things a little bit needlessly complicated, talking about hypothalamus and amino acids. We're gonna make this super simple for you. And we're also she goes on to say this. Again, this is not unique to women, but this is also a cultural experience. So this is going to be where I'm going to be a little bit of Captain Obvious for a moment. Are women generally more stressed than men when they wake up?
I would say yes, based on personal experience.
Yes. And why?
Because we then need to get the kids up, and generally, I can't
Yes,
say this for
you're
everyone.
doing
This is for me.
Freaking everything. You're
Yeah.
doing all the stuff.
Yeah, my beautiful, wonderful husband stays in bed until after Emerson's at school.
Yes. And he can just do that. And
he can do
he's
that.
like, the groceries are here.
Yep.
And the food is on the table.
And the laundry is done.
The laundry is done. And if it's not there, and this is like, I sound like I'm the dude complaining about the, you know what I mean? But it's like, women are waking up oftentimes, and the world, they don't have the option to opt out.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about, go listen to the episode, the one about stress back in the 20s or 30s.
Mhm.
But we talk about that stress is not inherently good or bad.
Correct.
Stress is indifferent. How we respond to it is. And so what ends up happening, if you are chronically stressed, then working out can be a net negative.
Mhm.
If you are chronically stressed, we've talked about the stress cycle where we recover from it within working out. If I am super stressed and then I have not yet recovered from it and I add a new stressor, I'm going to make myself worse until I give myself the opportunity to recover.
Mhm.
And so, yes, if you go into your workout really stressed and not in a way that you feel like, hey, this is going to be a net positive for me, then yeah, that could further your stress and leave you more depleted, 100%. And eating some food can potentially do that. But this is true, again, universally for everybody. Everybody, male, female, regardless. You're going to train better with food in your belly. You're going to train better with food in your belly. If you want to know the optimal time for anybody to train, it's about 3 p.m. If you woke up at like
really?
7 a.m. Nobody can work out at 3 p.m.
No.
Ain't nobody in the world who can work out at 3 p.m.
No.
That is not a convenient time to work out. Why is that the best time to work out? Because I've had enough food in my system throughout the day. I've eaten enough. And I've woken up and I have some food. So I have some carbohydrates. I have some protein that my body can use to then work out intensely. And it's not so late that then it's going to impact my ability to sleep later.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deal. If you want to know when, if you want to go to find out when are you your strongest, go to a powerlifting gym. The busiest time at a powerlifting gym is like 3 to 5. Because those guys all know, and those women all know, that I am at my strongest. My central nervous system is its most regulated at that point. I have the most food in my system, and it's not going to impact my ability to sleep, so then I don't recover overnight. So, coming into the day, absolutely. Women wake up and they're stressed. Why? Not because they're women, but because they're women. It's not because it's X, Y, or XX, but it's because they are running the dang show.
Right, because of the family responsibilities.
Because of
generally
life.
fall on us.
And they're like, all my women clients, they wake up and they say, I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep. My mother, bless my mom. She will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and she's like, I was up for 3 hours because I couldn't shut my brain off. And she's like, she'll call me and she's like, I was worried about you all last night. I couldn't sleep for an hour and a half because something that I told her that Levi was going through.
Aww.
Because my mom is still my mom.
Right. She's always going to be mom.
She's always doing that. And she's a woman. And that's where her brain is at. It's the way that and it's not because it's the way that she's wired as a woman. It's because that's what she has had to do for her entire life. My mom's mom died when she was 11 years old. She was the youngest of 5 kids with a very traditional father who women are going to be secretaries forbade her from going to college. And she had to take care of her dad at 11 years old because he didn't know how to function. Because he was the difference that we're talking about here. Her mom always figured it out. The house was clean, the food was made, the laundry was done. He didn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
My mom has been doing that since she was 11 years old. She can't shut that part of her brain off.
Right.
That's not because she has an extra X chromosome. It's because that's her life has brought her to that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's we have to understand that there's some of this 100% that is biological, 100%. But universally speaking, if you wake up stressed and then go do a HIIT workout, fasted, yeah, you're probably not going to recover the best from that and feel pretty depleted.
Yeah.
Like, I would feel that way if I did it. It's not like what makes me frustrated about it is it makes exactly your response where women are like, "Oh damn, I should just be it's because I've been doing it wrong my whole life and because I'm a woman, this is what my, the way that it needs to be," versus realizing it's actually meant to be empowering, which is what she said at the jump, which is it's meant to be empowering. If it's meant to be empowering, let's not just give blanket solutions. Now, she does give a solution here that I think is valuable. I do think that most people would probably enjoy and get more out of their training if they had a little bit of something in their system beforehand. And she gives a couple of good examples here.
Okay.
But if you don't, that doesn't mean that you are wasting your time by exercising. But we have to get to the root cause of the problem. And it's not that I'm doing fasted working out in the morning. It's the fact that I'm too stressed to function in my life, and I'm just adding more burden to my life. That's my first rant.
I love Jeff rants.
In the morning to then go be successful in her training. And it's even if you're going for a walk, a lot of women will get up and go for a walk on the auspice.
Are you with me? Are you in my house with me?
Maybe.
Stacy, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I think a lifetime of messaging about.
Just like a quick pause. I do love Mel. I love her.
Oh, yeah.
Vibe. I love her vibe. Like,
She's so great.
She's so great with this. But again, the idea that waking up and going for a walk is detrimental, fasted for women, is like, this is the moment where I just want us to apply logic for a moment. Okay. And this is where I'm like, come on now. Like, come on now. Seriously? Ugh.
Like thin is preferable.
Yeah.
And that I want to maximize calories burned.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to get up and I'm going to have a cup of coffee because I'm tired and now I'm going to wire myself.
Yep.
And then I, back in the day would be going for a run or going to some sort of like fitness class. I'm old enough to have been doing step aerobics and everything
right
else.
there
Yeah,
with you.
right, let's go.
Whoop, whoop.
And now, and I've just carried that over.
Yeah.
And I also then tell myself a story that I'm going to get a cramp or I'm going to want to throw up in my mouth if I'm doing something too much and I've had too much to eat. And so this is a completely different change for me.
Yeah. And it's one that's going to be really super beneficial.
So every woman listening and every woman in your life, if you're listening and you're male, needs to know that one of the biggest mistakes that we're making by following male-centric fitness advice is we need, as women, biologically and physiologically speaking, to actually have something to eat first thing when we get up.
Yes. Yes. And
Y'all knew I was going to pause that, right?
Yes.
We all understand the problem with that. And again, I get what Mel is trying to do. Make it super simple, but we can't skip nuance. But again, she's not wrong that waking up exhausted, wiring yourself with coffee, and then going and beating yourself into submission is the issue. But she did say something that is wrong there, which is the misunderstanding that we have around fasted cardio. So if you're not sure what fasted cardio is, the prevailing opinion on it and why people do it, if it's like, hey, this is right on paper, which it's not better for anybody, male or female, do it whatever you want to do it, is the idea that you do it fasted and I'm going to burn fat because I have no food in my system. And you're right. You are going to burn fat if you do fasted cardio. But if I eat it all back, it doesn't make a difference. Burning fat and losing fat are not the same thing. Okay, so whatever you're using as energy to do the exercise matters less. Now, you're actually probably, if you're trying to maximize calories burned, which is not the goal of exercise, by the way, we've talked about this, you are going to get marginally more calories burned from more intensity or whatever it is. It might be 100. It's a lot easier to just not eat the fifth Oreo than it is to work yourself that much harder. But the other piece of it is you are actually not going to burn more calories, likely, if you're doing it fasted. Why? Because you're not going to have as much energy.
Right.
Because you're tired and you have no food and your body's using its fat stores, which it doesn't want to do because your body wants to stay the same. Your body wants to stay exactly where it is all the time. It's called homeostasis. And so it doesn't want to use its fat stores and you're forcing it to. And so it'll do it, but it's going to do it reluctantly. And it's going to, in your brain, go, you're tired, bro. So maybe take your foot off the gas for a minute. We have nothing to use. So yes, women and men probably would be better off not doing their workouts fasted because they will have more energy to use for the workout and be able to train with more intensity to get more out of it. But that doesn't mean that if you do it fasted that you're wrecking anything. It just means you're probably leaving a little bit of intensity on the table. However, just a little reminder. Life is life. The idea for me, back when I was training first thing in the morning, before I had kids, this is a long time ago, when I was teaching, I needed to leave for my teaching gig at 6:20 in the morning. And I didn't like to work out without eating anything because I felt like I would bonk. I would run out of energy. I would get too tired halfway through the workout, 3/4 of the way through the workout, and I wouldn't be able to train as hard. And I tried it for a bit where I was like, I would wake up at 4:45 and just pound a pre-workout and then go downstairs and try to train and then come upstairs and eat something. But I wasn't getting as much out of it. So what did I have to do instead? I woke up at 4 in the morning and had breakfast. And then I packed everything for the day and I let myself digest a little bit. And then I went and I did my workout. And then I basically just came up, showered, got dressed, and walked out the door. The idea that I'm going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning right now and have breakfast and then digest and then do my workout before my kids wake up at my kids were up at 5:30 this morning. And you want to know what I thought? Oh, it's a halfway decent morning. I almost slept in this morning. It's a good day if we make it past 5:15. It's not happening. So if I wanted to try to get it in before the kids woke up, I would have to do it fasted. And so sometimes, remember, practicality trumps perfection. But there is a ton of value in trying to have some food in your system beforehand in terms of your ability to get a better workout in. But better and actually doing it are two different conversations. So figure out the way to actually do the thing.
And when we start looking at it, I did a competition a couple of weekends ago just for fun. And I had so many women come up and go, the first thing that you did to change my life was to tell me to eat beforehand. And now like my training's better, my outcomes are better, I have more energy. And I'm like, well, of course, because your brain is like, I can handle this stress. So if you are supplying fuel to the empty tank, of course you're going to go far. If you think about trying to drive a car and rev it up and get it on the highway to at speed with it on E, it's not going to get very far. So I try to explain to women, if you're going to get up and even if you're going for a walk, like you want to maximize what you're doing. You want your metabolism to fire on all cylinders. You want to get some aerobic fitness through that. You need to supply just a little bit of fuel. And it doesn't mean a full meal. It could be the protein coffee. It could be a couple of tablespoons of yogurt, half a banana. It's not a lot, but it's enough to bring your blood sugar up and tell your brain, yeah, I've got this. I've got this.
So the first change already, small.
So again, she's not wrong.
Right.
But this is also true for men.
Mm-hmm.
This is not unique to women.
You're a little bit
Women
of
will
something.
experience it more because they are waking up probably in a little bit more of a deficit. But also, they're running on less food.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that women probably wake up tired is because you have to do it if you're trying to be in a deficit on whatever, 1,800 calories,
Mm-hmm.
and your husband could eat 2,400 calories and be in the same deficit as you. Sorry, it sucks, but that's the reality. That's the thing that's harder for women than men. Not the fact that you're waking up and your hormones are, you know what I mean? Your hormones are all over the place. 100% they are.
Mhm.
100% they are. I talk about all of that in the thing. But it's not unique to you that you're going to get more out of your training by having some food in you.
Mhm.
But you're also not wasting your time or doing yourself a disservice to go and work out without eating anything.
No, is this a dumb question? Do we just get used to not eating in the morning? Because I never eat before I work out, and it's more because I don't feel good if I do. But this goes back to when I was dancing. Our instructor was very clear about do not eat before dance. Do not drink ice water before dance because of what it does to your system. Like it can slow you down while you're in the act of dance. But I think I just got used to that. I never eat before I go to the gym because I feel like I'm going to throw up if I'm really pushing it.
So this is a little bit of what Mel said,
Yeah.
which is not wrong, which is this is a little bit of the story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong physiologically in how you feel, and so you're able to make your own decisions. But again, your body is used to what it's used to.
Right. So this could
how
be a
do you-
self-fulfilling thing.
Yes. And so some of it is, okay, let me start. If I wanted to start doing this, you could start with something small, like she said.
Like half a banana. I could do that.
Half a banana, right? That's what I used to do, is I would have a banana with my pre-workout when I was doing the thing first thing in the morning, and it wasn't quite enough for me,
Mhm.
right? So I needed to start eating like a full breakfast with how hard I was training. But again, is there value in doing that? 100%. But you can ease your way into it.
Mhm.
And also recognize that don't get into the shoulds
Mhm.
of life. Like, oh, I should be doing this because that's the messaging that's been pervading women's diet culture for ever.
Mhm.
Which is, you should be doing this. If you're doing this, it's wrong. Fat, it makes you fat, and carbs make you fat, and it's your insulin, and it's your whatever. Like, yeah, your blood sugar's low. So you're going to have low energy. You want to know why your blood sugar's low? Because you haven't eaten anything since the last night. Everybody's
Mhm.
blood sugar's low when they wake up in the morning. Everybody's is. Everybody. All you have to do is talk to one person who's got diabetes. You want to know what the scariest time for somebody who's got diabetes is? Overnight. And this is where I get like, I get frustrated with people because it's like, there are real people dealing with real stuff here. Like, let's just not throw stuff around casually
Mhm.
as if it's not a big friggin' deal. All right, we're going.
Small change, but critical one for our biology and physiology is you need to eat something before you move or exercise in the morning.
Yeah.
And to also, I think like the bigger thing here for me is that I'm starting to realize I've been so brainwashed about the fact that you need to be thin
Yes.
that it's a paradigm shift to actually think, well, wait a minute, I need to learn how to work with my body and my natural wiring to make it work for me and to
Right.
actually optimize the way that my body's designed as a woman.
Right. And one of the things that has come up recently in conversation.
Just a quick pause. Yes, Mel. Yes, 100%. You
Mhm.
have been brainwashed by that, and oftentimes women are fighting against it. Case in point, let's not just paint all women with the same brush and be like, hey, we have to do this, right? So this is where it gets like, let there be nuance. It's okay for things to be nuanced. They're simple, but it doesn't mean that it has to be easy.
Where some women who've just started into the strength training realm or have dropped all of their big cardio walking, because we all come from the 80s and 90s of let's do 90 minutes of aerobics, and that's not appropriate. So they've gotten out of that mentality, but they'll see other women at the gym who are on the elliptical or treadmill or out running, and they look really lean, and they're like, well, I don't understand. I kind of want to look like that, but I know that I need to be doing strength training, so I'm confused.
Memorial Day savings are going on now.
Sorry, gang. Again, there's going to be a ridiculous amount of ads in this, and I don't really know how to do it. But yes, again, this is 100% the culture. And so she's going to say a couple things here that are very true.
Women that are 40 plus who are doing the cardio, for the most part, they're going to be what we call skinny fat. So that means that they're not going to have a lot of quality muscle. There's going to be a lot of fatty tissue within the muscle, and their bones are going to be like chalk. Because if we are doing all that cardio work and we're not looking at how our bodies are aging and what we need the food before the training, we need to put in some strength training, then we're going to continuously be breaking down the tissue that we want to keep to age well. So when we're talking about that mentality of, well, what do I do? It's like these small steps of, yeah, let's have some food before. Let's look at how we are dosing our exercise, what kinds of intensities. Let's bring in some strength training, because all of those are going to feed forward to having our lean mass, having really strong bones, having really good neural plasticity. So that means how your brain changes in a positive way. So as we age, we don't get dementia. So these are all the things that I would rather women focus on than the drive from the 90s to be Kate Moss thin. Because on the outside, that drive to be super thin is killing us on the inside.
Wow. You mentioned protein coffee.
Could not have said that any better. 100%. Women, strength training, 100%. 100%, 100%, 100%. Osteoporosis, more prevalent in women than men, right? Which is your bones breaking down. If you want to live long and well, got to be lifting weights. Got to be lifting relatively heavy weights to get stronger. And also, everybody that you look at on the internet, right? So like there was in the 90s, like everybody who was like as tiny as could possibly be, but you can be very lean and toned if you have good muscle underneath you and you shed some body fat on top of it. But more important than oftentimes shedding the body fat for your longevity and being able to do the things that you want to do, you got to lift some weights. 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 Cardio, 100%. Good for you. Do it. Love it. Lift some weights. Listen to the episode, the one about strength training, if you want it, or the 3-part series on how to design your strength training program, if you want some help with that. And again, it's not bro science to say that this is the way that it should go. Strength training is strength training. Okay? Now, are there certain exercises that are maybe a little bit more comfortable for the anatomy of a man versus the anatomy of a woman? 100%. But the principles of strength training are true throughout it. We've talked about this before. Women do 12 to 15 reps. Men do 8 to 10 reps. Lean versus bulk and all of this stuff. Not going to get bulky. All you got to do, you want to know how you know that you're not going to get bulky? By lifting weights. Look at my arms. I've been trying to grow my damn arms for a friggin' decade, and they are not growing. You know how hard it is to build muscle?
Oh man, I'm sorry. I did not mean to laugh quite
No, but
so
it's
raucously
true.
at you.
They're
It's
not
true.
that big.
Yeah.
And it's hard to build muscle. It's hard. You're not going to accidentally do it. Not lifting weights because you don't want to get bulky is like not learning to drive a car because you're afraid you're going to win the Indy 500. You're not. You're not going to accidentally get bulky because there's so many people out there trying to do it who can't, and they're working really freaking hard at it. So just go lift some weights, please. All right, we're back in.
Can you explain what that is and how that might satisfy the first takeaway, which is eat before you move in the morning?
Yeah. So a lot of women don't have an appetite first thing in the morning. I'm one of those, but I know that I need fuel. So I'm very much an espresso addict. I love it. And one of the simple things that I do is I make a double espresso at night and I mix some protein powder into my almond milk or whatever milk you want. And then I put the hot coffee in there and I put it in the fridge overnight. And then it's my go-to first thing in the morning, where then I'm getting my 30 grams of protein. I'm getting my caffeine. It tastes like a latte. I'm good to go. And so that's a first hit. It's a first eating opportunity to bring in some of that protein that we need. And if you're going to go do any kind of exercise, knowing that exercise mutes your appetite, then it also helps with that recovery part because you're going to have those amino acids circulating. Your brain's going to say, hey, yeah, okay, I've got stuff to rebuild tissue. So it's a really good way of being able to have what you need without feeling overfull and still enjoying some of the good things of life, like coffee.
Well, you've changed my life already.
Yay.
Because I've got two takeaways. The first one is, and I still want to stay on it so I actually understand why eating first thing before I move my body and having fuel first thing in the morning is actually super important. And I want to unpack that a little bit more, but I want to hover on the protein coffee because I'm drinking it right now. You made me one in our studios here in Boston. This is going to change my life, and here's why. I have struggled forever since I've learned, and a lot of us are learning as women, that focusing on more protein and especially getting protein first thing in the morning is super important. And I'm always struggling with how the hell am I going to get 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning without choking down 10 egg whites?
Yeah.
And what do I do if I'm on the go? And what do I do if I'm tired of eggs? And what do I do if I don't have a blender near me and my stuff? What do I like? And so you literally took a scoop of protein, shoved it in milk, put in espresso, stirred it up and put on ice. It tastes like a freaking milkshake. And what I love about this is that A, I can make it the night before. B, it's 30 grams of protein in a cup, which C means I could even take this on the walk with me. I could take this in the car if I'm dropping my kids off somewhere. I could make this on the road.
Yeah.
Like, this is such an incredible tip. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And what I want to do, though, Dr. Sims, is you mentioned that when women wake up, our brains are different than the guys, and our stress levels are higher. And it is important to understand that and to give yourself a little bit of fuel. What happens in your body?
Just a quick pause before they get into this. So I do think that this, like having a shake or something like that first thing in the morning, great option for you. I don't know if you need to have the espresso. If you want to have the coffee, you can absolutely do it, right? But this kind of goes counter to the idea of like, hey, I'm trying to de-stress myself, and coffee is not necessarily, like there are a lot of studies that you're going to be better off if you can wait 90 minutes to have caffeine. Like there's more studies on that than the other way around. But again, practicality trumps perfection. And so you do it when you need to do it. But I would start with some water. That would probably be where I would jump with. But having a shake, if you're trying to get more protein in, which is, we've talked about, look at the one about the protein. I'm just going to refer you guys to a gajillion other episodes today. Look at the episode about protein. If you're trying to get more protein in, particularly as a woman, and you have a hard time getting it in, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get that much protein when I'm also trying to be mindful of my overall calories? How do I get protein without a lot else? doing a shake is like trying to find pure protein sources is difficult. And so having a protein shake or protein coffee or a smoothie or whatever it is can be the way to go. And so I'm going to announce this here. I have not announced it anywhere else. This is brand new information for the world. Actually, and I can maybe no longer say that I don't make money from this podcast. I'm now sponsored by Legion, which is a supplement company that I've liked and enjoyed for a long time. Do you remember? You might not remember this. It was like 2 years ago. Quick story time. Sorry, friends. Quick story time. 2 years ago, I posted on my Instagram stories that I kept on getting like mom of tots clothing brands in my DMs being like, hey, we think you're the perfect fit to like advertise our stuff. And I'm like, all right, clearly these are a lot of bots, but also I might need to rethink my messaging a little bit.
Just a smidge.
They think that I'm a mom. But again, and this was part of the vibes of it and why I care enough about this episode to do this. But I said, like, this is funny, but I also will never just take a sponsorship from somebody who slides into my DMs, because I get this all the time of people who want to, you know, be an ambassador or whatever. And I said on the very next story, I said, if C4, which are the drinks that you ever watch on YouTube, what I always drink for energy because I don't like coffee. You can keep your dirty bean water. I want my watermelon flavored deliciousness.
Oh, man.
For my caffeine. But C4 for energy, Fabletics for clothes, Nike for shoes, or Legion for supplements. Those are the companies that I already use. I have drank C4 energy for years. I've had Legion supplements, protein and stuff like that for years. All my training clothes are Fabletics and all my training shoes are Nike. And they have been. And so I said I would never advertise somebody that I didn't already use. But out of nowhere, I got to reach out, and there was somebody from Legion, and I sent it to a buddy of mine who's sponsored by Legion. I was like, is this real? Like, this doesn't, you know, I'm not totally buying this because it's a big company and it's very reputable. So I was like, they have like real people repping this, you know, like it feels a little silly that they would reach out to me. And it's a real thing. And so as of today, I officially have my code for it. And so if you want to, I don't like, this is how new this is. I don't remember exactly what you get if you want to do this, but if you go to Legion, I think it's legion.com or legionathletics.com. I should probably know this. I'll know it more. I'll put it in the show notes and I'll put my description in there. But my code is JD Fit. And I think you get like 20% off, 20% off your first order, and then like a subsequent percentage off, or like buy one, get one 50% off for every order thereafter, or something like that, if you use that code. So, and I get a little bit of a commission, not much, but I get something if you do it. So just full disclosure. But again, I love it. There's the one that I really like if you're looking for a protein is they have one called cinnamon cereal, which you remember Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal?
Do I remember? I have a 10-year-old.
So Cinnamon Toast Crunch, you know, the milk at the bottom of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch and how delicious that milk is. You're like, if they could bottle this, I would buy this milk. That's exactly what it tastes like. I'm dead serious. It tastes exactly like that.
All right,
so
I'm looking into
put that
this.
in with I put it in with regular milk, but if you did whatever kind of milk you like, I haven't tried it with water because I don't particularly like the texture of it with water, though you save yourself some calories that way. But there's a bunch of them that are quite good. So if you're looking for a protein source, you can get one on a discount. Go team.
Go
Hooray.
team.
JD Fit. I'll put it in the show notes. That was really clunky. I'll get better at that.
It was.
That was really clunky. But I was also announcing that I was doing it, so there it is.
Do you have to do commercials and stuff for them now?
No, but I like they ask like for a couple of posts, but I'll naturally do it anyway, where I'll be like, hey, eat some protein before you go do it, and also you can use this, which is good.
See, I'm 110, so I use those pure protein little shakes that look like the Glucerna shakes that you have to drink when you're 85.
Yeah.
That's what I drink with coffee mixed into the chocolate ones because it's
There you go.
delicious.
So anyway, totally like the idea of doing it or even part of it too. Like you could just drink half of it beforehand and then do the other half after. But then we'll dig into the rest of this. But quick little aside, but yeah, do protein at the beginning.
If you do start eating breakfast in the morning or because a lot of women skip it. A lot of women are now intermittent fasting. A lot of people are waiting until noon. A lot of people don't want to eat before they exercise because they don't want cramps or they actually want to maximize calorie burn. But what is the benefit to a woman in particular first thing in the morning if you give yourself fuel?
There's a few things to unpack there.
Okay.
So first, we look at eating opportunities because there's so many women who are, one, trying to lose weight, or two, already in the fitness space and following some of the trends that don't eat enough. So if you aren't eating enough, you're not going to actually change your body composition. So we look at eating opportunities. First thing in the morning, 30 grams of protein, boom, that's an eating opportunity that you're not really feeling overly full, but it's such a great benefit to the body and you're ahead of the game by having 30 grams of protein. We also look at some of the newer research that's coming out about our circadian rhythms or how our body goes through 24-hour cycle. And for people who break their fast by around 8 a.m. and then they don't eat after 6 p.m., have all of these great metabolic outcomes that you would expect from, quote, intermittent fasting. But we see that people who hold a fast till noon or after don't get any of that benefit. So if we look, well, why? Why is that? We have to understand that a half an hour after a woman wakes up, we have a spike in cortisol. That's our stress hormone. If we
feels very
just
blankety.
think for a moment. What? You feel very what?
That feels very blankety.
Well, also, let's just think for a moment. Why might a woman, 30 minutes after she wakes up, have a spike in cortisol?
That's when the kids are waking up.
Yeah. Can we, you know what I mean? Or life has started to happen. Her husband wakes up, you know what I mean? Life has started to
the
happen.
husband wakes up stressed.
Can we, it's very blankety.
Very
Couple things
blankety.
here that we want to, she threw it away casually. If you're not eating enough, you're not going to change your body, right? That flirts with the idea of the myth of, you're in starvation
mode. Yep.
Right, which we debunked on the myth busting episode. I'm just referring you to all the episodes
I know.
today.
I actually had a woman say that to me yesterday, that she was in starvation mode. That's what she was aiming for. I was like,
yeah, no,
and she walked away. I'm like, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing. You want to know how you know? Go to Africa.
Yep.
And it sounds now, if you're not eating enough, why is starvation mode myth? Why does that exist? Because if you're not eating enough, what do you then do? Eat too much.
You make up
because
for
you're
it later.
stressed, because you're in too much of a deficit, and your body's like, I'm really hungry, and so then you binge and you eat everything, and you're like, why can't I control myself? You can't control yourself because you're freaking hungry, because you're not eating enough. And so I've talked about, she's going to dig into the intermittent fasting thing a little bit more here, but just as a note, intermittent fasting, people who cheer for the intermittent fasting thing, like, oh my gosh, you're burning your fat stores. This is the same garbage as the fasted cardio. Like, the reason that intermittent fasting works for people who it works for is because they eat less food.
They're in a calorie deficit by default.
Because they're eating less food.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, you end up eating less food because you're skipping a whole damn meal.
Mm-hmm.
I forget where it was. There was a dude who came onto a podcast and he was dead serious. This was wild to me. Dead serious. Came on and he said, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to eat no later than 6 p.m. Okay, cool. I buy that, right?
Sure.
Like, are you going to turn into a gremlin after 6 p.m. if you eat? No, but probably not making the best nutritional decisions after 6 p.m.
Right.
So, cool. 6 p.m. and you're going to digest probably a little bit better. You'll sleep a little bit better. Ton of reasons to potentially stop around 6 p.m. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you're going to do, this is exactly what he said. So you're going to eat at 6 you're going to stop eating at 6 p.m. And then you're going to non-eat breakfast. Okay, well, all right. That seems like a long time to go without eating. And then you're going to not eat lunch. And then at 6 p.m., you're going to eat your first meal of the day.
An only meal of the day.
So basically starve yourself.
24
and
hours.
He's like, the fat is going to melt off of you. It's like, no shit, Sherlock.
I'm not used to you swearing.
That's the first time that I've ever used that word on here. But like,
I'm not used to you swearing. It's great.
Are we kidding? Yeah, if you only eat once a day.
Yeah, no.
You're not eating that much food.
Also,
and you're starving yourself. So yes, you're going to lose body fat. You're also going to lose everything else, like your sanity.
Right. The math ain't mathin' though. Like he wants you to not eat past 6, but only eat at 6.
Yeah, basically just eat one meal at 6 p.m.
1 second to consume.
I mean, even if you gave yourself the time to eat it, but it's just like, this is where, now, again, I like what she says here about the circadian rhythm sort of thing, and there's a lot of stuff to that, but
makes sense.
Again, all that this means is, you wake up, what ends up happening? After you're awake for a little bit, you're probably hungry, because you haven't eaten since the night before. It's been a long damn time since you ate. And then why maybe stop at 6 p.m.? We just talked about it. So it's not magical, but we're adding sciencey, complicated sounding things to just like logic.
If we don't have food to tell the brain to drop that, then we stay in this heightened stress state. And what cortisol is responsible for is that fight or flight, but also providing fuel for being able to fight or flight. So the first thing that goes is we start chewing into our lean mass, which is bone and muscle, and a signal to keep our body fat, especially as we start to get older.
Wait a minute. So not eating because you think it's going to help you lose weight actually
Counterproductive.
is counterproductive
Yeah.
because it's signaling your body to stay in fight or flight, which makes your body hold on to fat.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Yeah, she is. Now, Mel's response is very Mel, right? But that's starvation mode, right? This is, oh, my cortisol is elevated, therefore I can't lose fat. Now, temporarily, yes. If I have a spike in cortisol, your body goes, okay, I got to hold on to everything because we're in this mode. Like if I have a big spike in cortisol in the moment, but that doesn't last for your lifetime. If you're chronically stressed, the problem is not that you have these elevated cortisol levels all the time and you're constantly in fight or flight mode, because you kind of are, but it's not that, because you can't constantly be in fight or flight mode. You can't. You cannot do it. Your body needs to come back down. Why is high stress levels causing you to not lose weight? Because how are you compensating for it? Because if you get into fight or flight mode, your body needs you to get out of it. It needs you to do it. So what do? You no longer are a rational human being when you're in fight or flight mode. You are in survival, instinct, reptilian brain mode. You need to decrease your cortisol levels. And so we look for the quick fix because it's the immediate result. So we go to the thing where we get the quick bump, the dopamine hit. We go to social media. We go to TV. We go to food that tastes good. You want to know what doesn't make you feel good when you're wicked stressed out? A chicken breast.
Certainly does not.
It does not. That's not what you want when you're stressed out.
Nope, I want chocolate.
You are in like, I need it now. I'm not a functioning human being. My daughter this morning had I'm not exaggerating, 25-minute screaming tantrum where I had just no clue, trying to break through, like dragging herself along the floor, like losing, and it came out of nowhere. I was just like, why? I was just like turned around and she just lost it. And I got her calm, and I was like, what was going on? She was like, and I'm dead serious. These were her words. I needed help with my shoes. And I was like, girlfriend, your shoes aren't even out?
Mm-hmm.
And those words never came out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, losing her dang mind. In that moment, when she's losing her dang mind, you want to know what doesn't work?
Telling her to calm down.
Calm down, sweetie. You want to know what I still tried to do? Can you please calm down and use your words, because I don't know what's going on? She just screamed. She didn't know what to do because she was in what we look at as that's ridiculous, but that was a fight or flight moment for her. She's like, I'm in panic mode because I don't know how to put my shoes on, and daddy and nobody's helping me.
Mm-hmm.
And her shoes aren't even out. And so we can look at it and be like, that seems silly, but it's not the stressor's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the stressor's fault. It's our response to it that gets to that point. Why was the shoes the straw that broke the camel's back? Girl had been having issues all morning. She was on the verge all morning. It was bound to happen. This is why and we talked about it in the last episode that you and I did, when it was me alone with the kids, and I might have a disproportionate response to the thing that they do, and they don't understand. It's like, why is daddy raising his voice for something that seems silly? It's because I've been just brimming all day, and I'm at a 9, and you give me one more point, and I'm at a 10, and immediately I need immediate relief. So what do I do to get immediate relief? I do something that feels good. When I'm frustrated, what feels good? Not taking deep breaths. Punching the wall feels good. Is it productive? No. But it feels good. Raising my voice feels good. Going, ah! It feels good. It doesn't help, but it feels good. But when we are at those elevated stress levels that she's talking about, our cortisol is super high, and we're really, really stressed out, we look for the quick fix. So why is managing your stress important for you? You manage your stress so that little things don't turn into big things. Because why are women getting the spike in cortisol and all of these experiences first thing in the morning? Is because they wake up at a 7 out of 10. Because they went to bed at a 9 out of 10. So what do we need to do? We need to find ways to proactively and reactively manage our stress. And why does eating help with that? It's the old Stickers commercials. You're not you when you're hungry. My wife and I, we love Megan.
Very much.
Superhero. She knows me well enough to know that when I say, honey, I got to go eat, she might be like, this is the most inconvenient time ever for you to go eat. And she might get frustrated with me that it's like, I'm going to go eat right now. But she also knows that if I get to that point, if I don't eat, I'm not going to be good to anybody. Because Hangry Jeff sucks.
I like that you have that, you can look in the mirror there.
So, yeah, why would intermittent fasting be terrible for me and my stress levels? Because I'd be hungry all morning.
Yeah.
And I'd be frustrated all morning. Yeah. And I'd be waiting to eat all morning. And I would just be thinking about the food all morning. So why not just eat some food to feel better? Do we understand why this is getting needlessly complicated and where my frustration is coming? It's not to say that she's wrong. It's to say, with all of this, some of it, yes, but some of it, it's not necessarily wrong, but we're adding complexity and nuance and making women think that their body is broken because they're women. No, you're just hungry. You're just stressed. And that's hard, but you're not broken. You are incredibly capable, because if you left, husband, and you know what I mean? Like, be like my grandfather was. Making the world run. So This will probably be the last little bit. We've made it through 25 minutes of this episode.
I know.
Hour and a
I was
half.
just looking at it. I was like, oh my God.
And it's not even 25 because the first 4 minutes were the intro.
Right.
I promise you it gets a little,
go.
when she gets into the exercise a little bit better, then it's a little bit less stuff. But we're not going to get, this will probably be the last little bit for this episode for us.
I mean, when we look at the trends of the fasted training, don't eat before, it's all on male data. And the difference between men and women in this situation is, again, it comes down to the brain. So a man can get by with the fasted training because when we're looking at getting up and holding a fast or going training without food, for a man's body, it stimulates the little molecular structures in the muscles to use more fat, because their muscle structure and the types of fibers that they have are different than women's. So men have what we call more glycolytic, or fibers that use glucose, and not as many oxidative, or the fibers that use fat as a fuel. Women, we're born with more of those oxidative fat burning fibers. So when we go and we don't provide fuel, the body's like, I'm going to store fat because I'm going to need it, because that's the preferred fuel for your muscles. So men's bodies will start to adapt to be able to use more fat, which is why you see fasting and holding a fast working so well in men. But for women, it doesn't do the same, because we have different feedback mechanisms from the brain. We have different muscle requirements because of different morphology, we call it, or different muscle fiber types. So this is where, we start looking at all the stuff that we've been trained to do over the decades and how counterproductive and harmful it can be for women who are trying to improve body composition and bone.
Wow. Now, does eating first thing in the morning, because you mentioned the circadian rhythm, for a woman also help you sleep better at night?
Absolutely.
How come?
Because if we're looking at decreasing our overall...
All right, hang on. I wanted to remind myself what Mel said there. We may not get to that right now. No. That's what I'm going to say. No. Muscle fiber types? Yeah. Okay. This goes back to the conversation of what are we using as fuel? Does not matter. Does not matter what your muscles use as fuel. And your muscles are not going to store fat in them because you're fasted. Okay, this is where I get really frustrated, because again, you're allowed to be intelligent, but when we're trying to, that just is a lot of words that I think if you were being honest, and most people listening being honest, would be like, no idea what the hell she just said.
Correct.
But the takeaway is, oh, my muscles are using fat or storing fat, right? That's the takeaway from all of the jargon. That's the takeaway. And that's not accurate, because what your body uses as fuel and what it stores are two different things. This comes back to burning fat versus losing fat. Because try to think of a really good analogy for this, and it's going to be a little bit clunky, right? If I have a car, right? Car burns gasoline to run, right? So I fill the car with gasoline and it burns it out and it runs, right? Does that mean that the car is losing its mass at all? No. The car itself is still the car, because you put in the fuel and you burn the fuel. You put in the fuel and you burn the fuel. Now, if it doesn't have much, it's not going to run as effectively, right? And you have to kind of keep replenishing it, and you're playing catch up. But you didn't change the structural integrity of the car by burning the fuel. But if I keep running the car on empty, it's going to try to pull from things that it doesn't have, right? And now I'm going to change the structural integrity of the car because it doesn't have anything left to use. That's being in a calorie deficit, where I am burning more than I am consuming.
Mhm.
And so you can use fat more easily as men, use carbs, whatever it is, whatever you're, and again, that's global. That's a blanket statement. Everybody kind of uses different things differently. But what you're using as fuel is what you have. If I eat a ridiculous amount of carbs, my body's going to use the carbs. If I eat a lot of fat, my body's going to use the fat. Now, it's going to, everybody, it's going to use carbs first and then fats. Why? Because carbs are more easily broken down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen. Now, there's a little bit of differences and all of that stuff, but doesn't really matter. This is where I'm like, we're making this needlessly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, we're trying to operate under the assumption that if I'm fasting, then my body is storing fat. Because it goes, oh my gosh, I need the fat. Your body is going to be storing, it's not going to freak out. Your body goes, I can't hold on to this. I don't have the resources to hold on to this. It's like you're a boat and you're sinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's a calorie deficit, all right? If you're a boat and you're sinking, your body's going to go, let's chuck some stuff overboard to make it so we can stay afloat. It doesn't really matter what it is. Now, here's the thing, and we don't necessarily get into it here, but the last thing that I'll say is the prioritization is you want to hold on to what? You want to hold on to your muscle. So how do you make sure that it's not chucking overboard the muscle? You bolt it down using protein. So I'm going to try to sign, seal, and deliver this. I know this was longer. I'm going to probably post this, and we'll see if I get any sort of feedback on it. So let me know if you want me to do the rest of this, because this will probably go live, and then we'll do our 100th episode, and then we'll maybe do parts 2 and or 3 of this.
Mm-hmm. Probably 3.
But if you want me to do parts 2 or 3, just send me a message. I would love to hear your feedback on it.
Yeah.
But again, my goal for this is not to inundate anybody here, right? I think Stacy said a lot of stuff that makes sense. I love Mel, but I'm trying to simplify the process here so that women remember that you're not broken. You are incredibly capable. You have unique struggles, but that does not mean that you have to do things like find the secret solution.
Mm-hmm.
Because the math is still the math. The math is harder for you, but the math is still the math.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, appreciate y'all listening, and we'll do all the things that you want. Check down in the caption if you want some protein. And
good job. Good plug there.
We'll listen to you. We'll listen to you. You'll listen to us. Oh, jeez. I need to stop. This is a long episode. I can't go this long. We'll chat with you guys soon. Appreciate it.